look forward to hearing about the excitement, literally the excitement that will set in you. Hey, these seats up here are free. Front row, if anybody wants one. But Miracle Sunday, let me just tell you what I think could happen. It happens in church after church after church that I spend time with. It could be a big church, a little church, doesn't matter what. Little church, just you go right up 69, you'll come to an exit and it'll say Gerard. It's near Coldwater. So it's really not all that far away. They want to build a new parsonage. 56 people in worship on Sunday morning. And they wanted to build a new parsonage without debt. Sounds like a miracle? $110,000, and they were going to do a lot of work themselves, you know, all the kinds of things that people do. I happened to be there that Sunday. I don't go to too many of the miracle Sundays. Generally speaking, I do this part. They raised $120,000. They were able to do the landscaping and all that they thought was going to take some time. But let me tell you what happened to the people. As soon as that number was announced, there was an excitement. There were people applauding. There were people crying, talking to each other, hugging each other, which really meant we're in this together. And God has done something through us that we could have never dreamed. I look for that day for you very soon. Very excited. I know when I first started to talk with the folks, I talked with Steve and then Steve Simmons and told them a little bit about what a Miracle Sunday was. And I suspect they were a little shocked. Then I met with some folks, most of the committee, and Cindy wasn't there, and I think she was on a phone. And I said, well, Miracle Sunday goal usually is 100% of a church's income in 1 week, cash on the barrelhead, so to speak. And Cindy goes, oh, that's bold. I suspect you had some kind of a response too, but the word was 325,000. Before I go any farther, some of you okay hearing me? This is kind of ringing back to me, but I just want to make sure you hear. It isn't important, I know what I'm saying, just that you hear. No, I'm kidding. Well, let's kind of start here. I'm going to do a couple of things. You have some of the notes in front of you because it's the stuff I wanted you to be able to take home and search through and so on. But I'm going to start with some other things here. And also, frankly, this phone number here, particularly the cell phone, if you have a question, you can call me, and that'll be just fine, especially if it's a little more of the technical side about giving. Well, expect a miracle at Taylor Chapel on that date. Mark her down, get her ready, and get your best stuff on. You're going to a celebration. I told the committee to make sure the choir sings their best stuff that day, sings the best hymns that you love, so there is an excitement of what God is going to do. Don't you kind of wonder what Moses must have thought when he was climbing the mountain? He's going up to talk to God for the people. Well, I don't know if I want to do this or not. I don't know what God's going to say. Oh, but hear what I found. There we go. One of the things I used to do when I was a little younger was a clown ministry. This was just right. Anyway, what we want to talk about in some specific is how to give with your heart without breaking your bank. Now keep in mind, a Miracle Sunday, and that would have been the cover page you had. Keep in mind, Miracle Sunday is about asset giving, not income giving. I'll return to that, but it's about asset giving. So the key thing for you is to start with is why. Because if you don't understand the why, it doesn't matter how the how is. Why? Well, why are we doing this? To continue the vision of Taylor Chapel. Marvelous worship this morning. Can you imagine what the first worship's going to be like in the new sanctuary? You're going to be in awe, aren't you? You're going to walk in there and go, oh, what did God do? Okay? Well, you want to continue the vision, you want to advance the purpose, you want to proclaim the message, and you want to expand the ministry. Uh-oh, what did I do now? I don't want to end the show. Let's go back up here. I'm lost. I'm not a techie. I'm too old for these things. Go to slides. Think that will do it? Let's try again. No? See if you can help me, Steve. You can tell how much younger he is than I.
Hey, Denny, while we're waiting on that, for those of us that can't see that, can you tell us what your cell phone number is or what number to contact you on?
517-242.
Wait a minute.
Wow. 242-3777.
Okay.
I asked for an easy one so I can remember. Got her? Okay. So what? Thank you, Steve. Don't go far away. This one, not that one. Okay. That button right there. Okay. What this is not about property. I mean, you can do this stuff, but ultimately, this is about people. The church is never about the bricks and the mortar. It's about people, constantly. So, let's talk about who are the people. Now, in that upper right-hand corner, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to help you all.
That's okay.
Here's some cheap seats here. Okay, well, anyway, upper left-hand corner of this box those are people like you who are Christian, and they are in church. I'm talking about your community here now. So, they're in church, but you also have people, maybe many, who are in church, but haven't quite made the leap of faith yet to follow Christ. And so they're learning. They're being challenged. That's part of your ministry affinity. Who is it that we're trying to relate to? Across the way from church over there and Christian, but these people are Christian, but not churched. Junior high kids who grew up in the church, and then about that age when they turn 15, they say, see ya. Okay? They're all around you. They're now 25, 30 years old with children of their own. Or they've just moved to your community. And they haven't connected to any church. Are you inviting them? I'll give you one hint. This summer, when you see a moving van in your neighborhood, follow it. Stop by and just say, welcome to the neighborhood. We're the Smiths, whatever. We just live a few doors down. And welcome to the community. Have you lived in this basic area, or are you new here? Oh no, we moved in from out of state. Well, if you need any help about doctors or hospitals or dentists or where the schools are or any of that stuff, be glad to help you. And also I can tell you about a great church. Follow those things. Guaranteed. The other church hasn't been there yet. Okay? Well, anyway, so you've got this group of folks who are Christian but not church. Then down in the lower right-hand corner, you have people who are not Christian and they're not church. Never been to church. Been talking about that this morning. Never really was connected with the church. But boy, their life can be changed. So this is about people, not just a place to park it in. Okay? So how would we do this? Well, how could this happen? And if it did, so what? Think about it. Well, you can do the common kind of thing. You could say if we gave this $325,000, that's $325,000 of down payment money that we don't have to borrow. And how much will that cut your monthly payment? Keep in mind it isn't a monthly payment for 3 years. You're probably going to take a mortgage longer than that. So you're going to have that much ministry money available all those years. That's just one so what. Think about it. What message would it send to this community? Your Miracle Sunday, you achieve what you've got in mind and God's asked you to do, and you've been faithful. I guarantee you're going to walk out these doors and you're going to tell people, man, something happened in our church today. Tell me another time you ever took an offering for $325,000 on the Sunday. Don't worry, there aren't many churches that could say that. But the community will get the hearsay. Whoa, those people are committed. There's life in that church. There's something going on there. And they're going to build a new sanctuary. We got to go see. Remember what the word was from Jesus? Come and see. Or from one of the disciples, come and see. They already have curiosity. Just invite them. Well, how can it happen? It can happen by understanding stewardship. What did God talk about in terms of what we're to be responsible for, in terms of our finances and the assets that He has placed to us? So we have to have not only an understanding of the Scriptures, but we have to be able to be faithful and we have to act on it. Financial stewardship basically is divided into about three categories. I'm just going to lift up two very quickly here. On the left-hand side of the screen, it talks about financial stewardship as it relates to the full spectrum of stewardship. It has to do with your weekly income. And you put money in the offering, you put it in your envelope, and you give it. All those sources that make up your weekly income, you live the tithe out of. However, across the way is your accumulated assets. Sometimes when I'm talking to younger people, they'll say, I don't have any accumulated assets, all I got is accumulated debts. Well, that's sometimes true at a certain stage of life, isn't it? Well, I got news for you. How many of you got assets? Come on. Never mind, otherwise if you don't raise your hand, you're lying. Do you know what the most rapid growing small business in America is? Storage sheds. Bingo. Reads Wall Street Journal. Anyway, it is. Now why is that? We got too much stuff. We got so much stuff we can't keep it in our garage, our basement, and don't look in the closets, we could get hurt. You know? I'm just saying, the deal is, we got too much stuff. Those are assets. Assets. And Miracle Sunday is about giving your assets. But one, your weekly giving to the church, that's where you're really living by faith. I'm going to trust God to give me what I need for next week, and I'm going to give it today, and I know He'll take care of me. Assets is what you already have in hand. And God isn't going to ask you for, in this particular Miracle Sunday understanding, He's not going to ask you for anything you haven't got. You do have it. Giving pyramid, very quickly. Typically, about 3% of the people who give to the life of the church on a regular basis, they give 25% of the money. The next 10% give the next 25%. The next 13% give the next 25%. So 25% of the people give 75% of the money. That's what God had in mind with proportionate giving. Not everybody is blessed the same. He who has much, much is required. That's why the widow's mite is magnificent. She gave what she had. In fact, she gave it all. Well, we're going to talk about this $325,000. Now, remember, it's never equal gifts. It's always equal sacrifice. That's how it works with God's plan of supporting the ministry of the church. $325,000. That's a lot of money. Well, how big's your God? The real question is, how big are you going to let your God be? Miracles. Well, you can't do those. I said that earlier. You can't do a miracle. That's God's business. God does that kind of stuff. But you're with God, working on behalf, and with Him, God will do amazing things through you. Well, let's get to some of this this stuff that's up here. This is elementary 101. Where does capital funds come from for a life of a church? Well, they come from down payment money, or money that churches have in hand already. In your case, it's insurance money. Okay? And then it's mostly asset gifts. And there will be some income giving along the way to make up your down payment. The more down payment, the less you have to borrow, the smaller your monthly payment. We all figure that out. The next stage in capital work is construction funds. Well, you're going to spend your insurance money, you're going to spend the Miracle Sunday money, and then at some point you're going to have to get a construction loan or a mortgage, generally speaking, and you're going to spend that money. Then you're going to get over to the debt service side. Now we have to pay back the mortgage, everything's all built, it's all done, and now we're over there. That giving mostly comes from income giving. You'll be asked at some point, how much are you willing to give to write down the mortgage, like you've been doing with the mortgage you got. Nothing new here. Then, debt elimination. Let's say you get close. Maybe you ought to do something like another Miracle Sunday. Because that might be 4 or 5 years down the road. And there will be people who have come to join you who never had a chance to play a part in this. And they'd like to do that. You never ask, you never get. Pretty simple. So that's where it comes from. Now, when you look at this, I want to show you, I think it's one of these papers in here, where this all can come from. Yeah, maybe I didn't tell them to print it. I'm going to show you this slide that's here. Simply lifts up. Yep, just about the last one. How 10 lead gifts can give about 40% of the money. You have a lead gift team. We'll be meeting with them this afternoon. But in most Miracle Sundays, there is a person in the life of the church that will give 10% or 15% of the whole project, whatever it is. So you take their $35,000. You find 2 people who will give $1,750. You can read that right down through there. $17,500. Now you're up to $70,000. 3 that'll give 10. Now you're up to $100,000. 4 that'll give $7,500. Now you're up to $130,000. Give or take 40% of the total. 10 givers. Giving from their assets will have you way down the road. Okay? Now, let's talk about this in sort of simplicity and yet some detail to it. How to give with your heart without breaking the bank. What you give and how you give it can make a difference. There is a sheet, I think it's the last sheet, or it was a separate handout, gifts other than cash. I wrote that all down just so you can kind of follow along about what I'm going to say here. We'll just see if we can work through it. Then we'll come back to this ABCs of giving. Now let's skip that one and come back. Let's say you are considering giving a gift of $10,000 in stock. Stocks, bonds, whatever. Even cash value of life insurance policies. Whatever, I mean, whatever your gift is. But your cost value, or you bought that stock for $2,000. Capital gains is $8,000. Give or take, the tax on $8,000 and 15% is $1,200. So the gift really is $8,800. Your tax deduction is $8,800. Now, if you took that same stock, went to your broker or whoever's holding it for you, whatever it is, and say, I want you to make the church, Taylor Chapel, owner of X number of stocks in ABC Corporation, transfer the stock as owner to Taylor Chapel. Taylor Chapel then will take it, and there's a McDonald's and Company Securities. Is this the right one, or is this, whatever. There's a form that you can get from the church here, or you can use this one. And you will fill out the form that gives them the right to take those stocks and put them in the church's name. Send them to you, put them in your envelope for Miracle Sunday, hand it in. On Monday, the church is going to cash them in. And I'm coming back to talk to somebody if they don't. Don't fuss around with that stuff. People know what it was worth on Friday, cash it. That's a very important part if you want another gift from that person. Well, point being, you make the church the owner. The church cashes it in, no capital gains at all. Why? Churches don't pay taxes. And you get the full $10,000 tax deduction. Pretty simple, huh? Pretty simple. So how you give the gift, and it can apply to many things. It's in that one sheet with several paragraphs on it to help you understand how to do that. So then I want to go back and hope I did the right button here. Aha, bingo. Got it. I'm trying to find my sheet that has that on there, because I wrote a few little notes on it. I must have left my briefcase, that's okay. I'm looking at the ABCs of giving. Now, if you're not going to give that kind of stocks and bonds and, capital assets like that, particularly appreciable. Oh, one thing I want to say about the stock. If it is a particular stock, you may want to give your oldest shares, because the cost value is much lower and the capital gains on it would be the highest. So you want to give your oldest shares. Now, if there's some reason you're just emotionally tied to it, I don't know. That's up to you. But the fact is, imagine what God can do with your gifts. So it's very simple. How you give it can make a difference. There's ABCs. Let's just have a little fun with this. Antiques. Now, antiques you need to turn into cash, and that would be part of your gift for Miracle Sunday. So you go to a reputable dealer, get an appraisal of some kind, maybe they're willing to buy it. You sell it, you get dollar for dollar the deduction. Okay? Annuities. Annuities. I don't care what the companies try to tell you, and I hope there's not too many salesmen here. That money's yours. You can do what you want with it. And as you get older, and I might just say to you, if any of you are anywhere near 80, 81 years old, chances are pretty good you're never going to need all that you got. Chances are pretty good. But the fact is, you can take money out of your annuity, take constructive receipt of it, as the IRS would call it, give it, and it's dollar for dollar deduction. Okay? Pretty simple. Nothing complicated about it. If you had some land, you wanted to sell it, there's a little catch to this. It's fine. You can go sell it, give the money, or tithe it. Whatever, whatever you got in mind. We've had this land up in the woods, or this land along the river, or whatever, and we thought we were going to build a cabin that wouldn't look like we're ever going to do that. Sell it. See what God can do with that piece of land. Find a buyer, sell it. We had in the foundation, we had a man who wanted to fund his annuity with a piece of land on the Sturgeon River, up at Indian River, which is almost to the bridge. You've almost got to heaven when you get there. He tried to sell it, and tried to sell it, and tried to sell it. Finally, he called us and said, I can't sell it. Sell it for whatever you can get for it. We said, okay, because the annuity had not started because he hadn't funded it. Well, I happen to be the district superintendent in that area, and I happen to know people in Indian River, happen to know a real estate guy. And this man had 2 lots. And what he wanted for them was $25,000 apiece. And so I said to this guy, I said, I got a sneaky suspicion I know why he isn't selling them. He said, why? He's not asking enough. If it's only worth $25,000 to you, well, it can't be all that good, so nobody would travel up there from Chicago or Detroit or wherever to even look at it. Figuring it's probably half underwater, you know, whatever. He said, okay, let's see if what we can get for $40,000 a lot. He says, but I have a buyer who's looking for 2 lots side by side on the river. And I think he would give the $80,000. 3 days later, the deal was done. Now, the man gave land. In the life of a local church, though, I want to say this to you, any gift like that that has potential of being taxed, property gets taxed, I think, in Indiana. I've compared Indiana taxes to Michigan by doing Bob and Margaret's taxes. Thank you very much. I'm glad to drive north.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, the deal is that you don't want the church to end up having to pay taxes on the properties while they're trying to sell them. Maybe a wonderful gift, but the trustees have to say, yes, we'd be glad to have that, or thanks, but no thanks. And don't be offended. Unless you as the donor says, I'll pay the taxes until you sell it. Then I'm sure they're going to say, okay. Okay? But it isn't ready cash until they're sold. Bonds, same story. I want to tell you a story about a boat. Had a new Christian. Larry had lived a hellish life. Drugs, and he had this wonderful wife and 2 little girls. Just incredible. She was a lady who says, I don't have any money to give to the church much at all. But every Monday I will come in and clean the kitchen. No matter how it got used on Sunday or who used it for whatever purpose. My daughters and I, they were just little. I'll come and just clean it. That was her gift. And that kitchen was spotless. Well, Larry, her husband, tattoos up and down his arm, nothing wrong with tattoos, but he lived the drug life. He just, out all night at the bars. Terrible stuff. But he found God, and life changed. Now, as a pastor, he was wearing me out. Well, what does this mean here in the scripture? Yes, Larry, this is what it means. And he couldn't get enough of the scriptures. Sounds familiar, huh? Once you start down that road, there's just a hunger. Well, we're doing a miracle study. Well, the reason that she didn't have any money to give to the church all these years is because he drank it or smoked it. They lived in not such a cool house. But here's this transformed guy. Now, he has a Glastron bass boat with a 200 horse on the back and an easy loader trailer. It was for he and his drinking and smoking buddies to go fishing almost every weekend. But his life got changed. He was really fussing. Denny, I don't have anything. I've messed up. I want to give to this project. It's $4.7 million worth of building. And he wanted to do his part. I was his pastor. I mean, I said, Larry, you just pray about it. God will show you. You just keep praying. God will show you what he wants you to do. Bam! Into my office one day. And he didn't stop at the secretary's office. He didn't do anything. They just bam, right in. Then I got to talk to you. I got it. I said, whatever you got, I want to be vaccinated from. I mean, this guy was so excited. He said, I'm going to sell my bass boat and the motor and the trailer, and I'm going to pay off the debt, and whatever's left, I'm going to give it. Now, Pastor, your job, this was like Monday or Tuesday. Miracle Sunday is Sunday. It's not like he was getting this done early. He said, now, Pastor, your job is to find somebody to buy it by Sunday. And called me out. And I said, I'm going to do it. Let's get down. And Larry's one of those guys. You whip around, you get on your knees, and you get into a chair, and you start praying. And I said, God, his heart has changed. His life has changed. Help him to complete what he believes you want him to do. He walked down there, I asked him before he left. I said, Larry, why are you selling this boat? I mean, we're talking about a boat to die for. He says, well, I got these two little girls. They need me more than the fish do. That's a pretty powerful message. Went home, went out and told his fishing buddies, he said, they were waiting in line to buy it. He got more than he thought he would get. I've never bought a Glastron boat. I don't know what they cost, but I got a feeling they're a pretty penny. And he was able to give $11,000 to his church. Paid it off. Happy as all work. Well, that's a boat story. One of the guys says, I got a bunch of my dad's old books. I was going to do some illustrations here. Old books. Are these worth anything? I said, I don't know. Go ask somebody who sells old books. Buys and sells them. He was able to give a very substantial gift to his church. Out of old, frankly, some of them kind of musty. Some of them original editions. I know nothing about that kind of stuff. Guy had a timeshare down in North Carolina, where all the golfing is. See, I'm not a golfer. I take a ball for a walk. What is that place? Anyway, Myrtle Beach, sure enough. He has 4 consecutive weeks in his timeshare, and he wanted to sell it. Well, those are pretty tricky things to sell, and you don't get much for it and all that kind of stuff. Sure enough, he sold it all 4 weeks to one guy, or to one family. $23,000 he was able to give. It had no longer become useful to him, but it was an asset that he could give. Let's talk about diamonds. It's one of my sort of favorite stories. I got 5 or 6 of them that I really love. How am I doing for time? Okay, keep going here. I'm in Flint, Michigan, very poor community. Right downtown at Christ United Methodist Church, right in the middle of the toughest part of Flint, Michigan. So they wanted to do a miracle Sunday to get rid of their debt. And they needed to raise about $110,000. It wasn't a lot, but it was like a whopper to them. So I'm doing one of these kind of seminars. The lady says, I'm going through all kinds of illustrations. She raises her hand. She says, I got my mom's, and my grandma's, and my aunt's diamond ring. I got them in a sock in the back of my drawer. Do you remember the phrase, put it in the old sock? You remember that? I didn't know if that was just a Michigan phrase, but that meant save it. She says, they ain't worth anything. I said, yeah, I bet you diamonds are always worth something. So what she did, pretty creative. Took her 3 diamonds, had them appraised. Lo and behold, the guy that she had done business with for years decided to buy them. She wanted some zirconiums, is that the right term? Zirconiums to put in those. Now she wears the rings. They've been 22 years in the back of her drawer. And she gave $2,700 to her church. Now, I'm telling you, it's just assets, just stuff. Just stuff they've got. And then she said to me, and I like this one, she says, ask him about his milk separators. I never thought about giving milk separators, but he had 3 of them. Antique kind of stuff, you know, way back. Anyway, he sold 2 of them, kept the 3rd one, because she always wrote it. There was one on the back porch, one on the front porch, and one out the barn. He sold 2 of them, gave the gift, which was really quite substantial, because he had all the parts and, you know, filters and whatever all went with it. But one of them was stainless steel. He got that thing all cleaned up. He said, you know where that is now? I said, no, I don't know. It's in the living room. Well, it was a conversation piece about their family history, what it really was about. But he gave the other 2 and was able to give a significant gift. There was a man who sold gravel. Just gravel, rocks. What he pledged was he had 3 projects for which he was going to provide the gravel. And whatever that all added up to, that's what he was going to give to the church. For Miracle Sunday. He's going to turn rocks into something that would bring praise to God. Lady in the church I actually attend is Eaton Rapids. It's interesting that on May 4th, guess what they're going to do? They're going to have like a Miracle Sunday too. There's a lady there. She simply says to me in the meeting like this, she says, well, you've got hogs on there, and you've got all kinds of things. What's the matter with horses? I said, God loves horses. She says, well, I raise an Appaloosa. And I got 3 mares that are going to have colts, and I'll give one of them. I don't know anything about horses. I mean, the breeds and all that. I mean, I know what an Appaloosa looks like. It's beautiful. It was $7,100 she gave. Just an asset that she had. Insurance, cash value, you can give that. Through money. And probably looking over this crowd, in general, purposes for which you bought life insurance are long gone. Well, make sure my wife's cared for, if something happens to me, or kids can go to college, or you know why we bought insurance way back when. But you can give that. Precious metals of any kind. I do want to make a comment about gold. There are some special IRS rules about giving gold. Now, I'm not talking about stuff that jewelry's been made out of, and you're going to go just sell it to like a jeweler or somebody, and they're going to melt it down. I'm talking about the investment grade stuff. There's some rules about that, so you want to ask a broker or somebody who's knowledgeable about that. I don't know if any of you have any small oil rights, but all over Michigan there's these natural gas wells and all that kind of stuff. And a man was willing to give a year's worth of royalties from that. We can talk about all kinds of things. I don't know anything personally about rock collections, stamp collections, coin collections, but I know they're valuable. You got the right stuff. And probably, where is it? In a drawer. I want to tell you about Julia from my church. and hoped we were gonna build a 16,000-foot addition with gym and chapel and offices and classrooms and daycare center and all that stuff. And she was a precious saint of God, well into her 80s. Lived in the same house all her life except for 3 years, when her husband was in the military. She wanted to give something so bad. Every now and then I'd call up Julia and I'd say, Julia, will you do the morning prayer? Now I want you to know, folks, she's about that tall, about that thick. And I'd invite her to pray because she was a prayer warrior, mostly shut in, mostly. She'd come up there and I'd kind of help her get up to the, and I'd tell the guy at the sound booth, turn the microphones off, she thinks God's deaf. I mean, this lady, when she would bow her head, you knew that she knew how to talk to God. And I think she thought she was going to interrupt him. Whatever. But she would just pray the most marvelous prayers with great authority and great expectation. She wanted to give something. Calls me on the phone, all fussed up. Oh, it was terrible. It was a terrible story. I mean, it really was. Go over to her house. I've been there many times. You always sit down and have a cookie, maybe one of those little vanilla wafer things, and a cup of tea. And after you're done chit-chatting about that and eating, then you talk about what she wants to talk about. She says, I want to give something. I want to give something. I don't have anything. She had an unscrupulous son who basically stole everything from her. She had 3 and 4 pieces of furniture in a room. That's it. There's all the junk stuff. He took all the antiques. I want to give something. Well, I said, I'll tell you what, you pray that the rest of the people in the church are faithful to what God wants them to do. I can do that. I want to give something. And she is. I thought she was going to have a stroke. I said a stupid thing. Knowing this tottering, very elderly lady, I said, just as I'm going out the door, I said, Julia, what's in the attic in this house? She's been in there all her life. Oh, and then I thought, oh, you dummy. Here she is tottering all over the place. But it was one of those houses where they had a 3rd stairway, so to speak. I get back to my office. She's already been up there. Because I said, I'll get the neighbor to come over and go up there and get the stuff, whatever's up there, if anything. She said, she didn't know if there was anything. Got up there and she found her dolls. Ceramic dolls. And all of the clothes that her mother had made for these dolls. Andy, her neighbor, one of our church members, took her to what's called a Wooden Skate. It's a big antique mall kind of thing. She sold that stuff for $2,600, and that's what she gave to the church. Should have seen her come down the center aisle on Miracle Sunday. I mean, just kind of wavering from side to side, carrying this great big envelope. Because I believe you're going to take a Miracle Sunday, get big envelopes. You're not looking for any little wimpy church stuff. You got stocks, you can put it in there. Whatever you got, you can get a lot of stuff in it. So she's carrying this envelope. Tears running down her face. Gave it. Walked back. Later told me it was one of the greatest days of her life. Just stuff. Well, some of you will get a tax refund. Maybe that's a gift. Man sold trees. Just pine trees. Not necessarily Christmas trees, but blue spruces and all that kind of stuff, like a nursery. Gave 21 trees. Gave a very significant gift as a lead gift to the church. Well, there's just stuff. Now, you've thought of stuff while I'm talking, haven't you? What's in your garage? What's in your closets? What's in the basement? What's in your storage shed? Those are assets. Those are things you've already got. It's not like you gotta go out and buy something and pay for it. Just give it. Turn it into cash. I will say this one story that I dearly love. I got time for just two probably. Little girl, little country church, came to Sunday school and church every week. No parents to come. She came on her own. She'd ride her bike. And I'm there early enough. In fact, I'm there before the pastor is, but the dear saints would ring the bell a half hour before church, you know. He's there. Little girl shows up. She's bringing her bike in the church. And he says, "Oh, you can't do that." And she says, "Well, I want to give it for Miracle Sunday." Yeah. So I thought, it's time for a stranger to take over here. If they get mad at anybody, I leave town. So I said, "Bring the bike right in here. And when it's time for the people to bring their gifts for Miracle Sunday down to the front, I want you to bring your bike." Now the pastor shows up. And he's like, "What's going on?" You know, well, Steve's not like that, and neither is Keith, but there are some that just don't get it. Anyway, she came down that aisle with that bicycle. I mean, it's a beat-up old thing. And I had to ask her, "What do you want to give your bike away for?" "Oh, my mommy and daddy gave me a brand new one for my birthday, and I don't need this one anymore." So I thought I'd do this sort of crazy thing like I am known to do. You haven't gotten that, have you? She came with the bicycle. I said, "Just stand over here by me for a little while." The people all finished bringing their gifts. And I said, "And who would like to buy a bicycle today? Who'll give $100? Who'll give $2? Who'll give $3? Who'll give $500 that bicycle sold for?" And then the man who bought it, he said, "I can't ride that. What should we do with it?" This little girl said, "Well, I have a friend down the street that doesn't have a bicycle. Maybe she can ride it to church." A beat-up old bicycle, huh? God will do miracles with stuff you can't even dream about. You can't even dream about. So what have you got that will be a part of the miracle with God? Pray about your gift. Don't worry, God won't disappoint you. And I know you're going to probably try to talk him out of a couple of things. "Oh no, God, I don't want to give up those old dishes. No, those were my mother." Where are they? In a box in the basement, or wherever. Pray about your gift. God will show you something. The next thing is to plan that gift. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Used to be things like eBay and Amazon, and I don't know anything about all those things, but a lot of things got sold through those that have given a lot of money to churches. College student, last story. College student calls home to her mom after she got the church newsletter about the Miracle Sunday and you know, all the stuff that they were doing. She says, "I want to give my Beanie Babies. I'm just a little old for them." College student. Mom sold those on eBay. She had like sets of them. I don't know anything about Beanie Babies. But anyway, they sold them. And here's a college student. I think it was around $2,100 she was able to get. She must have had a lot of them, but her heart was in the right place. So what do you got? Plan your gift, and then get ready to celebrate. You're going to be excited. Absolutely excited. Is God going to do a miracle here on Maysville Road? I believe it. I trust you believe it too. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. Worship isn't for another 10 minutes? Is that correct? Well, I think they were going to delay a little bit because they knew I was going to be over time. No, I'm just kidding.